Alright, so in section 1.3 we're going to be approximating irrational numbers. And this isn't just I can type in an irrational number into the calculator and I round. On our state assessment, you are going to be asked in the non-calculator section to approximate a square root. So we're going to practice that today. So there's a couple of ways we can do it. We can do it by either a number line or a table. So we're going to start by approximating the square root of 2 to the nearest tenth. So in order to start that, I'm going to draw myself as good of a line as I can draw from my pad. And I'm going to label it. So we know that 1 is the same as the square root of 1. 2 would be the square root of 4. 3 would be the square root of 9. 4 would be the square root of 16. 5 would be the square root of 25. 6 is the square root of 36. So when I'm looking at the square root of 2, and I'm thinking about where I'm going to approximate it, well, it's closer to the square root of 1 than it is to the square root of 4. So then I know it's more here. It would more go about here than anywhere else on my number line. And so then what that tells me is that that is between 1 and 2. And so then I can create a second number line. So the first thing, what this first step was that we approximated, we first found. So step 1. Find the two perfect squares it lies between. So we did that. We found out that it was between 1 and 4. Those are our perfect squares. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another timeline. So this was step 1. Now we're going to do step 2. And in this time, or not, I keep calling it a timeline. Number line, well, that's more of a curve than a line. Let's try that again. On this number line, instead of going from 1 to, we know that we're from 1, which is the same as square root of 1, to 2, which is the same as the square root of 4. And I'm going to put in, so this would be like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, approximately halfway would be 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, and 1.9. So I've now made a number line between 1 and 2 to our tenths place. And so from here, and I also knew it was closer to 0.1, I'm going to find my perfect squares of this. So I'm going to type into my calculator. To find the perfect square, I would do 1.2 squared. And so then that would give me so 1.2 is the same as the square root of 1.44. And I'm going to take 1.5 and I'm going to square it. So when I take 1.5 times itself, I'm going to get the square root of 2.25. And I noticed that, okay, well, here's 2.25, and that's 1.44. So let's actually look and see what 1.4 is when I square it, because here we're getting close to that 2, right? This is above 2, so I need to find where I'm just below 2. And at 1.4, I am at the square root of 1.96. So I know that I am somewhere in here, right? So I know that I am closer to 1.4 than I am to 1.5. So if I was rounding to the nearest tenth, I would say that the square root of 2 is approximately 1.4. Now, that's to the nearest tenth. So our step 2 was to make a number line with tenths between number one's whole numbers. So that was our 1 and 2 from the first step. So that's how I can round to the nearest tenth. Okay, so what if I want to find to the nearest hundredth? Well, we knew that we were between 1.4 and 1.5, right? That's what we found out. We were between 1.4 and 1.5. So then we just make another number line, and this just becomes our third step. And on this end, I have 1.40, and on this end, I'm going to call it 1.50. We know that this is the square root of 1.96, and that this is the square root of 2.25. And then halfway between 40 and 50 would be 1.45. And so what I'm actually going to start with is I'm going to find when I take 1.45 squared and what I get. So 1.45 squared, and we get 2.1025. So this is still above my square root of 2, right? 2.1. We're still above it. So this would be 1.41, 1.42, 1.43, 1.44. So since this is slightly above, I'm going to check 1.44, 1.44 squared, or 1.44 times itself. And this gives us the square root of 2.0736, which is still greater than 2. So then I'm going to try 1.43 squared, and that gives me the square root of 2.0449. So I'm getting closer, but I'm still not there. So 1.42 squared gives us the square root of 2.0164. Still above 2, so that tells me 1.41. Oops. 1.41 squared is 1.9881. So that tells me that this is the answer. Close. And then I just ask myself which one is closer. And so to 2, and so if I were to subtract from 2 minus 1.9881 and 2 minus 2.0164, and when I round to my nearest hundredth, this is the answer that is lower and less than 2. And so we would say that the square root of 2 to the nearest hundredth is approximately 1.41. And now I have rounded to the nearest hundredth. And if you were to type said square root of 2 into the calculator and you found the square root of 2 in the calculator, you would approximately get 1.4142135 and it goes on forever and ever. So when we look at our hundredths place, we are very accurate. Oops, that was not the line I wanted. We are very accurate. In the next video, we'll go over how to use a table, which uses a lot of the same skills. But yeah, we'll use a table instead of a timeline to help us figure this out.